6.5%, was it? Is that what
Welcome
the current
to
odds
another
are? The
episode
Stanley
of
Cup?
Well,
C4
and if
Canucks
you look at the
Hockey
round-by-round
Podcast, brought to you by
progression,
full press
the
coverage
Stanley
and
Cup
Canucks
favorite is the
Chris at
Vancouver
Light Force.
Canucks.
Joined virtually.
What a
few days
time to
later
be
than normal by
alive.
Anna Forsyth at
Talking you through
84603.
every goalie controversy,
How goes
scoring
the
slump,
battle,
and
Anna?
draft lottery bust.
I'm
This
fine on
is
this
the
end.
C4 Podcast
How's
on
that?
CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
Well,
Here
I'm
they
fine
are,
on this
the
end.
best starting lineup we could afford
yes,
under the
sir.
salary cap. Chris,
that's
Matt,
good.
Anna, and Adam.
No, if anyone follows me on social media, you knew that my wife wasn't feeling too hot last weekend. And on Monday, ended up having emergency surgery. So things got thrown askew. We tried to find someone to tag in for me. Anna had turned over every possible rock that could possibly, like, last minute tap in, and eventually we just couldn't record a show because, I mean, I'm sure Annie could have talked an hour long on your own, right?
I mean, I probably could have. My roommate offered to tag in, even though I think he's seen 3 hockey games in his life.
Well, that would have been kind of cool.
Could have been interesting. I mean, I did have to spend, like, a game a couple of weeks ago before the pause explaining to him what offside and icing was, so...
Still, I mean, I think it would have been kind of cool. I mean, how many other, Canucks podcasts out there are bringing a complete neophyte to the game into the show? I mean, that would be unique to us and continue to set us, aside from everyone else that's out there.
We'll have to get my mom on one day.
Oh, I totally want your mom. Hi, Susan. Thanks for wishing Marnie well.
Oh, yeah, she texted me about it. That as well. So, shout out Mama Forsyth for the 3rd episode in a row.
But no, we are back, as are the Vancouver Canucks. When we last recorded, the Vancouver Canucks had tentatively been penciled in, and we'll get into how that all went down and what went down, obviously, in this show. There's planes in the sky, which,
Yeah.
is a thing. I'm sure we'll talk about that. 2 teams from Ontario have come into Vancouver, and the results have been unpredictable.
Yep, you can say that again.
And now the Vancouver Canucks head... they have one more game at home before they head out east. But as they pointed out tonight, look forward next week to watching the Vancouver Canucks at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, God.
It's not like you or anyone else are... doing anything like this work business. Imagine, us complaining about 4 p.m. starts, but now we're getting to 2:30 in the afternoon. And it's not a U.S. television game on like a Sunday. So yeah, whatever. It is what it is. You know what? Let's dive into Rewind. Looking at the Vancouver Canucks schedule as it exists, it's going to be intense to say the least. They've since returned to action. Having beat the Leafs twice. We'll talk about these 2 games in a short moment. And then they lost to the Senators tonight, a game we'll talk about as well. But when we last recorded our show, there was some scuttlebutt that the Vancouver Canucks were going to return to action late last week. So almost a week from you listening to the show is when the Vancouver Canucks were supposed to return to action. And JT Miller, during sort of a media availability, straight up said, yeah, I'm not ready, and I haven't even been affected by COVID. I can't imagine what it's like for the players that have. Like, we don't feel at all ready. We don't think we should be playing. He talked about how the virus sort of ravaged a number of players, family members, the impact, both, physical, but also sort of psychological. And Canucks Nation, but really, I think much of the NHL was like, what the actual F is happening here? Like, why would Vancouver be scheduled like this? Why would ownership say okay? Why would Jim Benning say okay?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's been following the sports world at large this week, in football, it's definitely been the owners hanging the players and coaches out to dry. Mm-hmm. So it does seem like the higher-ups are not doing their work, and that includes NHLPA in that. I know they jumped on a call to help sort things out with the league, but it does seem like overall they haven't necessarily been up to scratch.
Well, and that's what's so confusing about this is that some of the conversation that took place after the Vancouver Canucks schedule got sort of rescheduled again with the delayed start as opposed to a Friday, it turned into a Sunday, and then a sort of a gradual reentry before they head into what's almost close to being a baseball schedule. Apparently the NHL, the NHLPA, and the Vancouver Canucks, as well as the Canucks media medical staff, got together and sort of said, hey, here's what we'll tentatively do, but this is based on players' medical assessments and whether or not they'll even be a team. And the Canucks organization apparently said, yeah, okay, cool, that makes sense. But no one thought to tell the players about this.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that nothing really happened after JT Miller said that, publicly. I'm sure privately, he might have got some reassurance or whatever, but there wasn't a sense that there was any sort of solidarity behind it either.
No.
Publicly.
Well, and the thing about this is that if, let's say there's some truth to this story. One, that's a big problem that Canucks management didn't feel it was necessary to talk to their players. Though, as we have heard over the course of this season, off season into the season, communication doesn't necessarily get checked off as one of the strengths of the front office.
Yeah. Or
at least the time that is necessary to communicate. So it's either a lack of communication or a lack of time, but either way, it's not good. The NHLPA kind of either dropped the ball or trusted an organization to represent. It's just, there's too many people that sort of made mistakes here. And ultimately, it took a player to come out and essentially put everyone on blast to say, this ain't right.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that it came to that, but it seems to work. I mean, the Canucks got a rejig schedule, 2 more days until their first game, and then 1 more day in which to play those 19 games.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to that point, what we see is this, you're right, 2 days rest before the first game, 1 additional day on tacked on the end. And they also rejigged the sort of transition into play as opposed to sort of being a couple days off and then boom, 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 back to back to back to back. Essentially, the first week of return to play, there's days off. And then there are no longer days off. So if you're not ready to play, and if any indication of tonight's game is that they're probably running on fumes now, it's going to be a long one, Anna.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget that we've got to go to Ottawa after the next game, and then we've got a back-to-back with travel between Ottawa and Toronto, so...
On top of that, nice 2:30 Pacific start.
Exactly. So, it does look like if we got excited after the 2 Leafs games, as some people did for sure, definitely brought back with a bump tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe, just maybe, Canucks, on a playoff team, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably just a duck.
Could be a cow.
It's probably still a duck, though.
True. So let's talk a little bit about these first 2 games back. The game on Sunday against the Leafs. Leafs get spotted a 2-goal lead, and it did not look good. It truly looked like the Leafs were going to have their way with the Vancouver Canucks, but Holtby decided, he was going to go and do everything in his power to prevent the Leafs from running away with it. Canucks get a couple goals, one of which was from Höglander, which was just a nice goal, only to have Bo Horvat decide, I want to win this damn game and, score in overtime. And the celebration that you saw from the Vancouver Canucks, which first of all, I'm not knocking. I totally get it. It's like they clinched a playoff spot or won a playoff series. It was so exuberant. And again, it almost kind of feels like that was like they were, put against the wall, facing a ton of adversity, hadn't been on the ice for however long, were given no chance. The lineup, because the Canucks returned to play before a good portion of those that were in protocol could come off of protocol.
Right.
And on top of that, you had a number of players who may not be in protocol who are still not in game shape.
Including that number one goaltender who they just signed to a huge contract.
Yeah, so the fact that they, squeaked out that 3-2 victory in overtime, spoke highly, and a number of people felt like, oh my goodness, this is cool. This is what it was meant to be. Damien Cox out there who was probably talking about the fact that this well-rested Vancouver Canucks team is throwing the Toronto Maple Leafs for a loop. Although he actually on Twitter was commenting about how Vancouver Canucks fans need to look at the Toronto Maple Leafs in the standings. I don't think that guy gets it.
Yeah. Oh, God. Like, whatever it is, Damien Cox does not get it. That's for sure. I mean, I think this idea of character players is definitely overrated in the league. It's definitely overrated, overvalued by RGM. But if you look at someone like Bo Horvat, he is that guy that will put a team on his back and he will push so hard in it. I could see that win meant a lot to him. So you know what? Honestly, that's kind of enough for me, seeing them all happy at beating the Leafs. And it was funny. So,
Well, and that winning that first game and sort of coming from that 2-goal deficit to win in overtime, that was like blue collar, true adversity, role player.
Work boots.
Work boots. Yeah, that's awesome. So can you explain to me what happens, a couple nights later when the Vancouver Canucks face that same Toronto Maple Leafs team, go down late in the first by 1, only to then go and get a couple, midway through the second to take a lead. Now, John Tavares was like, no, that's not how we do things, ties it up. Adam Brooks then gives the Leafs a lead in the third period. And then the Canucks decided, you know what? We're going to win now. You got Höglander, 2 from Pearson, Sutter with the empty net. Like 6-3, Holtby gets another win. And I think this was the game where he had that like unbelievable save, or was that Sunday?
That was the first one. That was Sunday.
First one. Okay, yeah. Sorry, everything's a blur right now.
He had some good ones.
Well, the Holtby we saw in these 2 games against the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think was the Holtby we were sort of expecting to see in this season. So one could argue that maybe he's now finding his sort of footing here in Vancouver under the tutelage of Ian Clark. I was talking to Jay. For those of you in C4 Discord, you all know Jay. And one of the things that he feels is that Holtby is a goaltender who sort of relies on instinct, whereas Ian Clark is very technical. And so it's the, challenge of transitioning from just trusting your gut to just, right place, right time, right mechanics. I
mean, because there's certain things that Holtby might have learned from experience that don't necessarily apply to the Canucks blue line and team chaos in the form of Tyler Myers. So,
yeah. So, but that save on Sunday, that was an instinct save. Makes the first save, and then he has the wherewithal to continue spinning himself around to kick that puck out of the net. Also, call me a hater. The Leafs scored a goal, but upon review, who knows where the puck was?
Oh my God. It's funny because Leafs Twitter and Leafs fans getting mad is funny, but it's also actually Toronto is in the war room getting the call right, because
you couldn't see the puck.
As much as logically, the puck had to have gone in.
Well, yeah, and I mean,
I can't see it.
No, and that was the thing, when Holtby's getting up, what's he doing? He's sweeping his glove, obviously in the net, past, and you don't see the puck until it's in the blue. Now, when you watch the replay, that's in. The way the bounce and the angle was, but yeah, I couldn't clearly see it. No camera angle.
Yeah.
This is the puck luck the Vancouver Canucks ultimately needed. So 2 wins. 2 wins against the Maple Leafs, and the Vancouver Canucks are playoff bound, right?
Yeah, I think maybe people got a bit excited, including the media.
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit about playoffs in half full, half empty. But tonight's game against the Ottawa Senators may have taken a little bit of wind out of the playoff sail or sails, because when Matt Murray shuts you out, 2-buzz. And the 2 Senators goals were dirty.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, Ottawa won good tonight.
No.
Ottawa,
but the Canucks,
Ottawa.
Canucks weren't good either. Maybe until the third, but then Matt Murray was like, yeah, no. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean...
I'll take one of my many shutouts against you, Vancouver.
It's a mixture of some weak shots, some really weak power plays, some bad calls on the ice, and some ill discipline from Vancouver. Like, you can't pretend it was just all the refs there.
Okay. So, that instigator penalty.
I mean, maybe the gloves, Hamnick's gloves hit the ice before Kachuk's, but yeah, that was like the opposite of a reputation call, eh? Like,
well, so like I commented on Twitter that, and I hated that I saw a typo afterwards, but if you consider that an instigator penalty, if the NHL referees were to call the instigator far more frequently, the call that we saw tonight would have been far from absurd. But it was like Kachuk was ready to dance. He knew he expected it. Like, again, it's this sort of expectation when you hit a player as one might, as Kachuk did.
yeah, and tends to do.
Was it Highmore that... who was it that was admiring their pass that Kachuk
I can't remember for sure.
But,
it was one of
the
the
point
new guys.
being, yeah, the point being is that, Hamonic came up to dance. Kachuk's like, yeah, okay. And you're right. Hamonic's gloves hit the ice, Aaron Rome style, quicker than Kachuk's, and he gets an instigator. Like, it's such a weird call to make at that point in time, especially considering how many other times have we seen where an instigator, you might suggest that, if they gave it, sure. But that's the thing, it's so inconsistent.
It's almost as if they don't know what the instigator penalty is. Like,
No.
get rid of it if they can't call it properly.
Well,
It's a stupid penalty.
Well, see, and this is the thing, I would argue, just call it all the time.
I mean, it's
Like-
true if you are actually, also, yeah, if you are like committed to getting rid of fighting or significantly cutting fighting, but they're not, because that gets them views.
Yeah, I know. You know what? We skipped over the Edler knee.
Oh, we did. Oh, we're such homers. Yeah, it was a bad hit. Edler was exhausted. It is funny. I will be that person that says, like, I think maybe some people on Twitter were going too far at removing, like, personal agency from Edler. Like, I blame the league too for the schedule. I blame, like,
not the first
that
time
for being exhausted by.
Edler's delivered that hit.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen him do it in international play. We've seen him do it in NHL play. Like, I often wonder, because I don't believe Edler is malicious. I don't believe he's looking to catch body with his knee. Like, but it's like he has this sort of mental lapse where his leg gets stuck in like a rut, or he's on the tracks and he just can't get out of the way. Like, it's really, really surreal. And it did not look good.
No. And yeah, it was an ugly hit, and so I don't mind the suspension. Like, you can't, I don't know. Maybe it was an existential penalty, so he just wanted to hit, so he remembered how to feel, but...
Yeah. Let's see how this feels when I hang my leg out to, trip.
Yeah.
Knee on knee, skate through. Like, I don't know what you want to call it.
But yeah, you can't not suspend someone just because, Edler was tired or shouldn't be playing the schedule they are.
Even
You
if that was
can't.
the case, he's a repeat offender.
I mean,
Right? Like,
if we're to believe Leafs fans, he should be kicked out of the league for
I know.
his play. Anyway.
The fact that I can't speak for Leafs Twitter, although I can imagine how they might have been responding to it. But there were those in Canucks Twitter who were like, "Oh, Adler shouldn't receive anything more than a fine, and even that might be egregious." It's like, okay, do you obviously not recall Alex doing very similar things in the past? Like, yeah, all the reasons that you're giving, he's tired and on schedule, blah, 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 matters little when you've done it before.
Yeah, I mean, it was still him doing the thing.
Looking ahead at the schedule, we started touching on it earlier. We're going to be coming back to you after the next 2 Ottawa games, one here in Vancouver and then one out east. We'll get into the following week, obviously, in our next show. But I got no good feeling here about this game on Saturday. I kind of suspect that the Vancouver Canucks are now outside of the adrenaline window and are now in this is the preseason where we go and get our fitness back. And Ottawa's looking to wreck. I mean, they're not mathematically out of the playoffs, but I think they understand their role here is to do everything in their power to really screw the teams they're playing from either getting in or finding positions. So,
yeah. I mean, I see Canucks coming back and winning on Saturday. I think they'll remember who they are a bit. But do I see them winning all 3 games? No. I think they'll lose at least one of the games on the road to Ottawa and again in Toronto.
Well, again, we'll come back to the next week in our next show, which is only days away because, hey, the surreal schedule, because of me being a brat. I kind of feel like I'm a little out of practice. And if there's one thing that I know, it's that the greatest hockey players, they never actually quit practicing their skills to improve their game. And really, you shouldn't be any different. ICBA trains thousands of workers every year on everything from Excel spreadsheets to excavating trenches, from personal leadership skills to construction estimating, from fall protection to effective management skills and 500 other courses. Online, on demand, webinars, and even COVID-safe in person, ICBA has an option for you and your busy lifestyle. Start climbing the corporate debt chart by sharpening your skills today. Check out icba.ca/courses.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on that.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? That because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
We touched on this in Rewind. The Vancouver Canucks are in a real interesting position when we look at the standings. They are obviously on the outside looking in. That's no different. But all along, the Vancouver Canucks were the one team who had all of the, or lacked the games in hand. They were ahead of everyone. They now have a bunch in hand. In fact, when we look at the Vancouver Canucks, they've got on Calgary, was it 5 games in hand, I think? 4 games on Montreal, 5 for Edmonton. And if we were to go and, let's say, give the Canucks a solid run, they're suddenly in playoff contention. And I think after those 2 Leafs games, the Vancouver Canucks sort of percentage of possibility was something like 20 some odd percent, wasn't it?
Right. And, staring down the barrel of 4 games against the Sens, you can't fault people for thinking, hey, maybe
so
this
you're
is
telling
something.
me they have a chance.
Exactly. I would get excited too, but yeah, the realistic thing is they're just facing such a tough schedule, and yeah, they're out of practice. Even with these days off, you can't be overworking the guys by practicing constantly, because then you negate the days off thing.
True.
So I mean, you're playing without your star player probably till the end of the season. Like, maybe Pedersen comes back if Canucks get really close, but I doubt it.
Yeah, that noise was the. Do you really want to break? Like, I get it. If you're in the thick of things, sure, but it has to be like. You need, like, those points are the difference between you're in and you're out. Like, I just don't see a window for a PD to return this season really being there. I would prefer he get right.
I mean, yeah, I think we both said that.
I know you say that too.
I will say, I can't remember who tweeted it. Let me see if I can bring it up here. But, during the game against Ottawa, Scott Rintoul just tweeted that was exactly the kind of game that you want your star like Pedersen to sort of could easily change the game there, because as we said, like, Ottawa weren't playing particularly well. Mm-hmm. Canucks just needed that one goal to jumpstart an effort. But yeah, it's not like that's an opportunity that they're missing. Like, he's permanently on the bench for now.
Well, and that's the thing about PD too. I mean, taking into consideration how some of these other players who had a lengthy break due to COVID, whether or not they actually suffered from the virus, there were conditioning issues. And it's obviously much harder for those that did because of the cardiovascular impact. PD has been out longer than anyone else. Mm-hmm. Well, not, relative to who's currently playing. Let me rephrase that. So, him returning tonight, I don't think he's a difference maker. Again, let's say if he was healthy, right? Or him returning with this return to hockey after the COVID break. So I worry more about players being put into a position where they potentially could be hurt. We've talked about this a few shows back where, players are unfortunately their own worst enemy. They are trained to compete. And with the culture as it is in hockey, and to some respect the code, you leave everything you can on the ice, including your physical well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you said it, like, the extended COVID break, they're not, like, going to the gym or whatever. This isn't just bubble fatigue, like they would have had during the summer, but it's, they were stuck in their own apartments, isolated from their families in areas of their house. So, in terms of physical fitness, they are way behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. So it again, coming sort of back to the point of half full, half empty, like, are we half full? If the Vancouver Canucks had beaten the Senators tonight, if they had actually gotten these sort of 3 wins, still outside looking in, but suddenly you're wondering, like, oh my goodness, is this what's going to happen? Like, those 2 wins against the Leafs, which were somewhat unexpected, wins against the Senators, which were somewhat expected. And suddenly Vancouver is putting so much pressure on the likes of the Montreal Canadiens, who themselves have actually been on a slide. And they won their last game, but their record over the last 10 is 4-6.
Right.
So they're losing more than they're winning. And then you have the Vancouver Canucks, who record over 10, which is kind of skewed because... Well, 7 of those games happened like back in January. Canucks 6-3-1, and again, this is sort of taking into consideration this game against the Sens. But you're kind of looking at this schedule, and you're looking at these games in hand, and you're looking at who Vancouver is going to be matching up against, and it's like, oh my goodness, could they potentially, make that move that no one outside of very, very positive, optimistic people thought was even a chance. So, and I'm going to ask you, are they making the playoffs?
No.
Okay, good. Because if you had said yes, I would have just wondered what happened, because you'd suddenly become Clay or something.
No.
So optimistic. I mean, you're good looking, but the positivity part, you and I are not necessarily known for that.
I appreciate the first part of that. Yeah. I mean, the players wouldn't be doing their jobs if they weren't, giving their heart and soul, and they weren't saying, we're trying to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Like, that's who you want on your team, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know. There are still some people filling out the bottom spots of this roster that, not even from a point of view of development, but more just like could make us better as a team. You'd be interested in getting maybe some of the prospects in, some of the Comets up and coming.
Like Cole Lind.
Like Cole Lind, for example. Like, I'm so excited to see what we have with him. No pressure, but
Do you think he'll actually get in?
I don't see it right now. I mean, Travis seems happy to play Mark Michaelis for like 5 minutes a night.
This is the thing, is like, it's such a surreal situation. Vancouver Canucks are technically, in the thick of things, as best as we could describe it. I mean, there is this possibility of having a shot at the playoffs. You've got a coach who is coaching for his job. Whether or not he actually can get it back, that's for the F word. But like, in what scenario would Travis Green want to go and start, rolling the dice when the Vancouver Canucks have a chance?
Right. And to be fair to Travis Green, he's not only coming off a COVID layoff with, exhausted players and not much practice. He's got, these new players, one of whom didn't even get on the ice for a game for the Canucks before he went into isolation. You have players coming in on the trade wire there, so it's not the easiest set of circumstances to coach in. And you're missing your star player, of course.
Louis Eriksson. It's been a tough loss.
Yeah, right. So as long as he doesn't hit the Louis button, break glass in case of emergency.
I'm actually surprised we haven't seen Louis. Unless, is he out? Like, I know he's out of protocol, but is he fit to play?
I mean, I believe so. I think he's just in the taxi squad doing his stuff. Or not.
I mean, I'm not the first one to have probably suggested this, but you would have thought that Vancouver would have called it like the lift squad or something like that. Like,
yeah, we're not great with taxis here in Vancouver.
It's a marketing activation right there. Anyway, do you, our listeners, think the Vancouver Canucks have a chance to make the playoffs? Genuinely curious. You'll want to let us know in Discord or online, on social media, wherever it happens to be, Facebook, Twitter, what have you. Let us know. We're going to take a short break here. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com and the Full Press Coverage Network.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of it.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
You, in the rundown that you put together, had an F word of exhausted Canucks, long shift and tough schedule. How does it all play out? We kind of sort of touched on that. And I was just sort of sitting here thinking, there's a lot of WTF moments that I'd like to talk about. For instance, the one that I got myself, into, because I happened to drop the word instead in a tweet that I had tried to edit and redo many times. And that had to do with the banner.
Oh, yeah. The banner. I mean...
So...
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to sort of... If for some reason you, our listeners, don't know what we're talking about, a group of Vancouver Canucks fans, or a Canuck fan, a Twitter account called Uncle Elites, set up a GoFundMe to raise, essentially it was $1,500 to have a banner fly around Vancouver that said Fire Benning. And within hours it had funded. All the proceeds went towards the funding of the banner, and then everything else went to charity. I think it was Canuck Place was the charity that they elected to submit it to. This kicked off a firestorm, because why wouldn't it with Canucks Twitter? And I had seen this get funded so quickly, and I saw the uproar, and I kind of thought, wouldn't it be cool if something like this could get funded? I'm going to presume anyone who's for the banner or against the banner could probably be passionate. Couldn't we unite the sort of opposing forces and potentially find a way to give money to charity. And what I had meant to say when I had the word instead in the original tweet was, instead of sort of finding competitive ways to go and spend our money discretionarily against each other, why not find a way to like bring people together? Because when Canucks Twitter sort of comes together, it's a real magical thing. It happens once in a while. Unfortunately, my tweet, I will acknowledge, came across as if I was telling people not to. I don't care what you spend your money on. I don't. I just sort of,
I never read it as that.
Well, and I get how some people would. I know, like Mike Marcanego lit me up, and then suddenly I'm on blast as being a Benning bro. Which, if you listen to this podcast, I'm pretty confident you know I'm not a big fan of Trader Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I kind of stayed out of the banner stuff, but I thought as is often the case, there was ridiculous takes on both sides of the aisle.
I'd say every side. Like there was the Benning bros, there was the Banner bros, and I started to say bros. I gotta find a more agnostic term than that. But you had those who don't like Benning but didn't like the Banner. No, like the no Banner, no Benning group. You had it's surreal. Like I truly think it is that we have reached a point where something like this somehow is the worst thing ever to have happened. And, we're going to draw all sorts of lines in the sand. I finally got fed up yesterday. So the Banner flew yesterday. And I started complaining that Banner's restaurant here in Richmond closed a few years ago, and I've never recovered.
Yeah. I mean, like most things on Canucks Twitter, a little dramatic.
No, Canucks Twitter's never dramatic.
Because I think you're in the same opinion as me, which is that would I ever contribute to something like that? No, it's a huge thing in the UK too. I think it's a waste of money, but like if that's how you want to spend it, go ahead. Because one thing I hate is the media, especially, getting sanctimonious over like fans and like how fans express their displeasure. Like, they can't get in the stadiums to chant Fire Benning. They're seeing their team, like, over 7 years get, like, stuffed by very poor management, and they can't do anything about it. So, I understand.
So this is the thing. We've talked about this, actually, how many ever episodes ago, that things had reached a point where arguably, whether it be Jim Benning or really the team, is probably happy there weren't fans in the stadium. Like, in fact, we think at the start of the season how the Vancouver Canucks went on that losing skid. Oh, man. The Canucks fans, and I'm not going to suggest all of them, but a good enough number to make the sound resonate through the rafters, would have been just livid, lighten things up, and maybe even worse, empty in those seats, which speaks quite loudly. I believe that if someone's upset and they want to go and share their disgruntlement, have at it. If you want to spend your money and fly a banner, buy a billboard, I don't know what else you might be able to go and do where you can spend your money to share your displeasure, go forth and do it. In fact, if you want to go and celebrate the team and you spend your money that way too, do that too. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I feel that fans have the right to choose how they wish to support a team. I've said this many times on the show. You'll see me say it on Twitter. Gatekeeping. Whoops, hit my mic. It's not for me. It's just unfortunately something many others do. And there's a good guy on Canucks Twitter. Some might know him. Lucas Gates, real good guy. I actually know him through Vancouver Titans story. He's a very positive fellow. And he and I were having a conversation sort of about it. And I had actually tried to express, like, I completely support his belief that it's a waste of money. It's wrong. If people want to give up their season tickets, they should do it. And I'd sort of tried to explain, like, okay, sure, but like, who are you to go and say that they're wrong? Like, you're perfectly entitled to feel that way, but that doesn't make you any more right or wrong than the people who are choosing to express their opinion this way.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, you cannot blame fans for being frustrated. So, if that's their way of expressing that frustration, sure. Like, do I think, because, like, I definitely don't think it's disrespectful to call for Jim Benning's job. Like, he gets paid a lot of money to do a job and he's doing it badly, and sports is a very fragile industry. You get fired for a lot less.
True that. And I might be a little bit more wishy-washy. Like, I Jim Benning included, I don't wish for anyone to lose their job. But I also would be the first to tell you that I don't think Jim Benning's the guy that's going to lead the Vancouver Canucks to success at this point. I'm willing to concede he's done the job that he was probably asked to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that job has been a good one. You've got Ray Ferraro talking about how the Vancouver Canucks plan is the no plan.
Yeah.
If I'm a fan and I don't know what's going on, and you can say, Chris, why would you? Ray's a lot closer to the game. He's played. He's obviously in media, so if you want to think about that being, a media want, fine. But he called it a no plan. Elliot Friedman, who I think is a Jim sort of guy. I mean, I'm not going to suggest he's pro Benning, but he's probably got some connection. He has articulated that there is this lack of a plan. Like, Jim Benning, for whatever it is that he's good with, couldn't necessarily tell you what or articulate it because he struggles to do that himself.
Yeah.
And you raised a really good point. How many years of success have the Vancouver Canucks had in 7?
1, maybe? Half?
Well, I'd say 2. I mean, 1.5. But when we think about play, like the Vancouver Canucks, over the course of Jim Benning's tenure, have had the worst string of time in their history. And this is the thing that sort of throws me. If you're like, oh, they're rebuilding. I've seen Vancouver Canucks rosters get rebuilt before. I've never seen a rebuild that's taken this long. Then the counter's like, oh, it's a cap era, and that's the difference. Okay, so how are other teams in this cap era able to rebuild? Oh, well, Mike Gillis left them without anything in the cupboard. Okay, so Mike Gillis was the one who somehow screwed over Jim Benning. So Jim Benning wasn't good enough to dig it. Like there's.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd both say that if they fully committed to a rebuild early, then it wouldn't have taken 7 years.
No. Well, I was chatting with a few people that I kind of believe if the Vancouver Canucks were to have rebuilt, like John Tortorella said this core need to be torn apart, rebuild. Mike Gillis had sort of articulated before he found himself without a job. But had the Vancouver Canucks, let's say, gone and rebuilt then, and the arguments, oh, the Sedins couldn't do it to the Sedins. I bet you if you went to Daniel and Henrik, say, hey, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be 3 years of pain. We're going to rebuild. But we think we're going to be good probably in maybe 3 years' time. What do you want to do? Do you want to stick with us? You want to ride this out? We see the light here. Do you want to go and find somewhere else to go? Like, we'll make this happen. Like, I believe Daniel and Henrik, being the consummate professionals that they were, would have been willing to work within that.
And I think Canucks fans, if Daniel and Henrik had decided to go elsewhere, and if they'd won a cup, like, it would be painful, but also how could you deny them that?
Well, no, it's like Ray Bourque. Right? Like Ray Bourque, when he won his cup, fans who'd followed him forever were so excited for him.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. I feel like it would have been painful. I think it would have been, if somehow they found themselves in, like, I don't know, Boston, that'd have been tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the point being is that I believe had the Vancouver Canucks started this process way back then, and, probably a conversation for another day, scuttlebutt would have it that Trevor Linden had come to the realization that the rebuild was the route to go, and for one reason or another,
Yeah, exactly.
Found himself out of favor with ownership.
Yeah, I'm going to say that when you brought up Gillis, because, yeah, Gillis had figured it out, but Trevor for sure had. And I mean, it's that sunk cost fallacy thing. Canucks decided, they were already far down the road of retooling or whatever they were calling it.
Yeah. The rebuild on the fly, retool. Oh, this is a good team. We're going to turn it around real quick.
Canucks can't even change on the fly.
No kidding. Oh, man, this season specifically. Too many men. Speaking of coaching. So the word hits the street today that there is a hot rumor that the team's wanting to run budget ops. Now, if we think back to a guest of ours a few shows back, Tom Mayanek, Tom had said that while teams are spending to the cap, on the operational side, where they also used to spend to the cap or sometimes above, some teams are looking to squeeze those pennies just a little bit harder. So it kind of adds up that the Vancouver Canucks could potentially be looking at ways to be a budget operation without being a budget operation. If the rumor is true that the reason Travis Green does not yet have a deal is because ownership has maybe said, yeah, we want to run this cheap. How do you go and give Tanner Pearson the bag?
Yeah, I mean, it's mad. It's a crazy way to spend your money on, like, rocks to weigh down the boat rather than fix the boat. I think I'm sinking in my metaphors here, but the point is, like, Travis Green and Ian Clark is why you spend your money, because otherwise the rest of your team doesn't run. And otherwise, other people are going to pay them and get the benefit of that. Like, look at your number one goaltender, Thatcher Demko. I'm sorry to say it, but he was a mess. Like, technique-wise, at least, when he came to the team.
Mm-hmm.
And look what he's turned into. That's Ian Clark.
Well, and the scary part is that as part of this conversation, the belief is that Clark's going to go and test the market. Well,
why wouldn't
you don't want to keep me under contract. Let me see what the grass is like outside of the fence. Like, it's just so surreal. And I understand that pandemic has hit the sort of Canucks organization hard. The Aquilinis as a family and as an ownership group, I mean, they've got a diverse number of revenue streams, but many of them have been hit: restaurants, hotel, hospitality, what have you. Development, maybe not as much because there seems to be a hot market there. But the point being is that if you're going to go and run budget, it seems a weird spot to go and get budget on as the coach that's actually, despite, someone like Nexus would tell you, he's done a decent job with what's been given to him. We might not always agree with his deployment or the reason as to why he goes and dresses this player over that player. But Green's done a pretty solid job with the roster that Jim's constructed for him, which I think most of us would suggest the roster that he's been given has not been that good.
Yeah. I mean, hate to say, like, bad workman blames his tools, but, like, really, what's he had to work with? He's done pretty well, all things considered.
He's been making some pretty solid chicken salad out of a whole lot of chicken shiznit.
We're bringing all the great metaphors in. I mean...
I can't... that's a Casey Printers reference there for those who might be fans of the BC Lions.
Oh, I see.
I know he's not also the one who created it, but...
I mean, look at the
sports knowledge
bubble. Like, look at the way he kept the team together, motivated the team, and, like, got this bunch of misfits to fire for however many weeks. Like, they outperformed themselves, and a bunch of players got hot, but I also credit Travis Green with a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is what it is.
I mean,
the reason why we continue to record our podcast, it's to nitpick this stuff, but I'm sorry, this is so surreal that we're even able to do that at this point.
I mean, their mascot is freelance, so clearly pennies are tight.
Yeah. I saw that Derek Jory, I don't know if he was there tonight, but he had tweeted out that like a game earlier this week was the first game since like 2008 that he had not been.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was his choice or the team's choice, but
I think it was it was a scheduling thing because of the schedule changing twice, I think, within 2 days.
Okay.
And he actually
But he's
was
freelance.
prioritizing his family.
Yeah, good for
He made
good
a
for Derek.
commitment, so, good for him
Good for Derek.
to do that.
Yeah, and he is freelance essentially.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. I mean, everything's skeleton staff over there.
yeah.
It really is.
Well, speaking of skeleton staff, it's just you and I on this show this week because we didn't line up a guest, which was probably a good thing considering, I went and threw a wrench into things earlier this week. Reprioritizing a family commitment somewhat. It was a commitment to my wife and her well-being.
I mean, you made that commitment a while ago, so
yeah,
just sticking to
and
it.
I was in charge of Baby Force, which has been a challenge. Mama's her favorite, so her not being able to go and jump on Mama, cuddle Mama, hug Mama hard, Daddy doesn't have the hair. Daddy's just not as huggable.
I mean, poor kid. She went from 2 weeks of isolation in the sunniest part of the year to a few days of freedom, and then her mom got sick. So,
yeah,
tough on the kid.
Oh, and she was not happy about that either.
And in the midst of that, it was her birthday. So
it was. Baby Force is now. Well, I mean, she's been toddler Force for a while, but I still call her Baby Force. She'll be 20 and I'll be saying Baby Force. But she is now 4. That's right. Yeah. Earlier this week. And she is definitely going on 14.
Yeah, she's a funny kid and smart kid. But yeah.
Yes, she is.
So.
But yeah, it's been a week here in the Golden household. It's also been a good week for the podcast because guess what, Anna? We got ourselves a review.
Ooh.
That's right. Marcus Meyer on Apple Podcasts dropped us a review titled "Awesome, 5 out of 5 stars. Love this pod. Charming, entertaining, informative, and casual. Highly recommend."
That's a great
That's
review.
A solid
Thank
review.
you. I mean, also hits the nail on the head, especially with that word casual. What do we always say? It's just two people chatting puck in a pub. Unfortunately, we can't go to a real pub right now, but we're trying to make a virtual
Well, we could go to a pub. We could sit on the patio, and we couldn't do it together.
Yes. We could sit on separate tables, I guess.
Right.
At a patio.
But I don't know if we'd be allowed to shout at each other because...
I mean, can they stop you shouting at each other? I don't know.
Oh, maybe, when we can go back to pubs again, we'll have to do a post-pandemic live show, C4.
Yeah, that'll be chaotic, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. And the other thing is we got a lot of feedback from our last show. So for some reason, you, our listeners, missed it. We had Brock McGillis join us, and he talked to us for close to an hour. It was a phenomenal conversation, one that we'll revisit. We'll get Brock on another show in the near future. And he was quite committed to also joining us for an episode of Off the Rails, our patron show for those listening in and above. But we got a note from Braden who, he reached out just to say it was a great podcast, that we were let him tell a story in length, follow up with any questions, good listen. Annalise, I saw that she had commented on how powerful it was and how good conversation was. If there's one thing that I'm proud of about our show is that we're able to go and generate that level of engagement, not because of what you or I said. It's that we got a guest on that people were so compelled to say, hey, you should listen to this. And that's sort of where we want to take C4 is we want to get into that realm where it's our guests that are compelling. And this is something we're going to do, as the course of the season runs, off season and into next season.
Yeah. And I will say that at the time we were having that discussion, it felt significant. So I'm glad that's landing with other people too.
Yeah. On that note, if there are guests that you want to hear on the show, let us know. Drop us a note in Discord. It's discord.io/C4 podcast. If you're not already a member, jump into the conversation on Gate 16. Or if talking hockey isn't your thing, that's okay too. We've got a number of other channels. We've got one on gaming. There's Off Topic, which is all sorts of stuff. The Nom Nom, which is some of the pictures that get shared in that channel. Let me tell you. We got some people who eat some good food.
Yep.
Also drink good beer.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like a broad church, so Om Nom 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 contains beer as well.
Yeah. And then as well, you can obviously follow us online at the C4 Podcast on Twitter and NC4 Podcast on Facebook. Have you signed up to our newsletter yet, Anna?
Yeah.
I know you have. A number of other people have too. The C4 Weekly Newsletter, which is bit.ly/the C4 Newsletter. For those of you who are looking for weekly last week and didn't see one, I'm going to apologize. My wife fell ill.
Yeah.
And
we'll be back on the
unfortunately,
radio.
The newsletter kind of got away from me. There will be one tomorrow. But many apologies. We'll get back on that. And we haven't received any text messages or voicemails, obviously, but if you were to want to drop us a line, 604-200-6201, 604-200-6201, or speakpipe.com/C4 podcast. So there we go. A very rare Friday show.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't have to wait too long because we'll be back on Monday to record for a Tuesday show next week.
Yeah. Just
or this week,
like
depending on when you listen to this.
Start out your weekend and finish off your weekend with C4.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and if you have made it this far, I'm going to actually throw this out there. Not that Anna and I plan on missing upcoming episodes last minute, but it might happen. If you are game to join us in a pinch as a potential guest co-host, let us know. I mean, I can't guarantee it'll happen. It's not like we're trying to find people to sub in on the regular, but we would, want to get some voices that might wish to, share conversation with one of us. And it gives us sort of this understanding that we can lean on people. Again, it's probably going to be last minute. Not to suggest we wouldn't try to plan something either, but as I said, Anna turned over tons of stones.
Yeah.
Like so many stones.
I was picking up rocks all over the place.
In fairness, there were probably some rocks you did not pick up, but then...
Yeah, there was some bad-looking rocks.
Mm-hmm. Those rocks will never be on our show. Those rocks either know they will never be on our show, or trust me, you'll know what rocks I'm talking about. You don't toss those stones in glass houses.
We've used so many terrible metaphors this show. I think it's time to get out of here.
Yeah, true that. So any final words of wisdom there, Anna?
Canucks aren't making the playoffs, guys. I'm really sorry to tell you this. I'm sorry to break it to Quinn Hughes and crush his hopes and dreams, but it's not happening.
Final words of wisdom from me. Family is always first. You'll always know that from myself and Anna, but I encourage those of you who are listening, family should always be first. So on behalf of Anna Forsyth at A4C03, myself, Chris at Lightforce, going to sign off this episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast by telling you that we're out.